Hey, good morning, Patriots. When you hear that really good elevator music, you know it's time for the show again and coffee. Well, I have coffee. I don't know about you, but welcome to Wake Up Patriots. It's good to see you all here. Well, I don't see you, but you see me. It's the way the technology works. Maybe someday it'll all change. With that said, someone who's not going to be seen today is Chris, because Trixie's here. Good morning, Trixie.
Good morning. How are you doing this morning?
Hey, how are you?
Oh, I'm here. I don't look like Chris, but I get to fill in for him. I probably won't yell "Hey" either.
Don't tell Chris I said this, but you look way better than him. Just saying. So.
Yeah, I won't tell him. Hopefully, he's not watching then, so he won't know.
No, he's tied up. I think he's at the Ed McMahon finishing school again. I think he failed his swimming with a fifth of vodka in your system event last time around. So he's got to go back and redo that task.
Yeah, he better be careful though. I might get comfortable sitting here.
Well, Chris actually has an advantage in some ways because of the fact that he has this goatee now. So he's trying to look more like the bad guy in the French Connection than himself. So and there's a reason. Tony LaBianca, who played Sal Buca, the other bad guy. He didn't play. He played the local Italian bad guy, not the French bad guy. So Chris is going for the French look. Ooh la la, so with the goatee and all that. So that's what he's doing.
Well, I think it fits him. I think it looks better. I think it gives a more distinguished look.
I know. I think he's going to try out for a new part on Star Trek Academy. He's going to be try out for one of the bad guys in that new series.
that actually would make sense with that look that he's got. He could give him that evil eye. I think it would look good.
He does a good evil eye. I think that's a good point. The evil eye, and it's not. It's he actually has. He's a good guy. Don't get us wrong, but I think everybody has a little evil in them, and I think that would be a good way. I'm just saying good morning to the Patriots. Good morning. So I don't understand, and you've heard me talk about this before. I don't get the point of that music. You guys use that music too on your show when you guys do the show? That bumper music at the beginning of the show?
No, I made up a new bumper for the timer like that with some real pounders so that it gets you going in the morning.
Yeah, see, I've been asking Chris about that because I just don't think that elevator music's the right way to get things going. So, we have rock and roll friends who allow us to use some of their stuff. So it's kind of like, our friend Cherie Curry, for example, she's a rock and roll star. Did you know that?
Yeah. I used to follow her, especially when
she's got some hits.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk to Chris about that again because I think it's wrong. So.
Yeah. I like having a beat in the morning because it kind of gets you going instead of the elevator music. Otherwise, you're still falling asleep when you're starting out. Yeah.
So, what do you want to talk about this morning? What's up first on your agenda that we should hit?
Well, you know about that stabbing in Traverse City, Michigan? You heard about that, didn't you?
No, I didn't. Tell me about that. I have no idea. I was paying attention to New York City.
It was over the weekend. A guy walked in. This is where I used to live, so I know quite a bit about it.
With the good guy with the gun, stopping the guy. I saw that. I did see that.
Yeah, well, the stabber actually was known to the police because in the adjoining county, he dug up a body and mutilated it. And his brother called into a local radio station and said what was wrong with him. Well, apparently he was doing drugs when he was younger and smoked some weed laced with something and totally lost it. And he was like on a acid trip for like the last 20 years. And he in and out of mental institutions and everything. But there was people in the store. I got some stuff, and it was just random. He just flipped out, and you could see he was crazy. But the good guy with the gun saved it, and I think he showed a lot of restraint because I think there's a lot of people that would have just pulled the trigger.
I would have pulled the trigger. No, there's no doubt. It's like as you all know, I'm a member of law enforcement, and we trained for this. My friend and boss, Sheriff Dave Decatur, has something called the Virtua 2000. It's a big stage where you train in scenarios with big old LED screens, and I think like 300 degrees, and you train against people running at you with knives, and you shoot them. That's what they train you to do. And it's like no hesitation. The moment you see someone within a certain distance, you shoot them. That's it. Because knives, well, as we know, can be very bad. So,
Oh, yeah, you can get gutted real fast. It doesn't take much,
So anyway, so can we bring Karen in? Karen, I think, is ready to join us. I was just texting. There she is. Good morning, Karen.
Hi, good morning. How are you? I actually, it was fine that I was sitting backstage. I didn't even mind because I've been trying to get in the chat. And apparently, I guess back in the day, I didn't verify my Rumble email. And now it's trying to send a verification code to like an old email. I don't know if any of you have ever had this happen to you, but this is such a me problem. And I can't get into the chat. So everybody's got to bear with me. But this whole like two-factor verification, and you got the email and you got the code. I've been wrapped up here for the last, I don't know, 5 minutes, 6 minutes trying to get into the Rumble chat. So wake up, Patriots. Good morning.
Oh.
That's right. Everybody is digging it. You're both here.
Amazing.
Trixie and Karen are both here. So
good to see you.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, there's no goatees in the conversation. Just saying. So
I see that. I see that. We'll miss Chris, but I know he'll be back next week. I think this is probably the first time that I've seen him not do a show on Tuesday. Maybe we did the show like once together, Tony, but I can't remember a time that Chris hasn't been here.
No, he's great with the boards. He runs things, so I appreciate that, and I appreciate Trixie jumping in. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Well, it's my pleasure.
It's nice to see you, even though I can't get in the chat. I feel like the chat came to me.
They're chatting about you both right now. Yeah, they're chatting about you both right now. So,
amazing.
Well, we were just talking about the guy with the gun who actually stopped the guy with the knife, which I think was done way more gently than I would have.
Yeah.
Because I saw the video, the guy kind of pursued the guy into the parking lot and said, basically, put the knife down. I gotta be honest with you. I would have just shot him. I would have tried not to hit lethal shots, but you shoot center mass and you hope for the best. So, Karen, do you think that was a reasonable hesitation to shoot? I would have shot him. I just would have shot him.
I don't know. I would like to think that you would have shot him, Tony. And I would also like to think that somebody would have seen a gun, running down the streets of New York, a man with a giant, rifle tied to him, and not a single person. I mean, at one point it was in his hand. Not a single person saw this happening. It's on cameras. Like, I don't understand, like, what was happening that we become just so, I don't know, blind to what's around us, or maybe so afraid. Maybe New York has become a place where people are so afraid that they don't even want to take in what's around them. And I think we all have our AirPods in and we're all in our own little worlds, right? We don't want to interact. We don't want to deal with it. And I think I feel that way when I walk around New York City. I don't know about you, Tony.
Well, I know that area that the shooting happened in. I spent some time there. And people are very intent on getting where they need to go. It's like there's constant motion. People are always focused on just trying to go somewhere. And I think at that time of day, which was later in the day, I think people were just trying to. It was near the end of the day. They just wanted to get somewhere, and the guy walked out.
It's not a real gun. It's just
Yeah, I think that's it. And it happened so fast. I mean, the guy got out of his car, walked into the building, started shooting. So it was crazy. And condolences to the NYPD officer who passed. I haven't heard much about him yet, but I'm sure I will. And
he's from
my guys.
He's an immigrant from Bangladesh. His wife is actually pregnant with their third child, Tony. It's a really a tragic situation, and somebody who was out there doing their job, who was protecting and serving. That's the oath that this man took. A family man, somebody who came here, who emigrated to this country legally. In so many ways, it's what we all stand for. So I look forward to learning more about him. I mean, that's just what I've learned this morning, because what a tragic situation, but what a beautiful memory to say, let's take note that there are people every day that are putting their lives on the line, even if it's simply watching the door at the office building that we walk in. And when you're walking around the streets of New York City with your AirPods on, just on the path to get where you're going, which is exactly what you said, in a moment that I've been in so many times, take a moment to say hello to the person next to you, or to make eye contact with the security guard, walking in the door, and say, good morning, thanks
Yeah.
for doing your job, like, good to see you, or you having a good day, because I think as human beings, we can all relate to the fact that I'm sure there are a lot of people today that are waking up that are not going to work in that building. And the first thought is, gosh, is that the guy who was in the lobby yesterday when I walked by? And like, was I nice to him? Did I say hello to him? And just the impact that you have in those little moments on other human beings. And thank God for him. I'm sure that his presence saved lives in some way.
No
But
doubt.
what a
No doubt.
deranged situation. So, God bless everybody who, was spared, and hopefully they're able to reflect today and focus on the real meaning of, being a human being and looking out for each other, because the fact that somebody could walk in and take so many lives is just something that I don't even want to comprehend while living on this earth.
Well, there's two things with that comment. First, the NYPD is pervasive and they're very friendly. As a matter of fact, to Karen's point, I always make a point of trying to talk to them, especially there in Times Square and Park Avenue. They're very user friendly, and they are trained to engage, which is great. I think law enforcement should be seen as someone you can walk up and talk to, and at the same time, they have to instantly turn the other way and be aggressive and defensive to be able to stop a threat. And I do appreciate that. Plus, I don't know if you probably knew this, Karen. The NYPD has a very effective undercover unit, which kind of moves around through the crowds. And I've worked with these guys. It's like one time I was off doing some shenanigans, and I was out with one of my colleagues. We'll just call him John. Good morning, John. And it's like, hey, come with me. And we're going down this one street just off Times Square. He says, that's our guys right there. It's like, really? those don't look like your guys. And you would have never known they're undercover officers. They're that good. And God bless these guys who do the really hard work of protecting citizens, even if they don't know they're there, which is great. And unfortunately, this guy out of Las Vegas, I guess, he's claiming he had some sort of a brain injury that the NFL gave him, and the guy never played in the NFL. So the guy clearly was mentally unstable. And it's a shame that this guy decided to act out and take the life of this NYPD officer and several others. But I think, to your point, I think there were deterrents there. The second point I want to make is we go armed down here in North Carolina. We are able to carry. I've got guns close by all the time. Just saying. And I don't, and we've had incidents here where things happen, and people that you're not going to last very long with a weapon if you start discharging it down here, because you have armed citizens ready to respond. And so I think that's another thing about New York. This guy probably picked New York because it's a gun-free zone for the most part. Thank God for the NYPD responding quickly. But I know for a fact that that's a difficult situation in New York.
Yeah, all in all, I mean, you could look at this, so many different ways. And, was it avoidable? Was there something could be done? There's Israeli technology now, Tony. And I think a lot of us sort of assume that we walk into, a crowd setting there's some sort of like laser X-rays.
I hate crowds. Crowds.
I'm not a big fan either. You and I are very similar. There's a lot of cohesiveness about like the way that we move, because I am fearful of large crowds. I am fearful that somebody's going to walk in with something. Thank God now they have the clear bags. We've made some differences, but there's Israeli technology where they can actually pick up what's inside somebody's bag. And I think for a lot of us, like, we kind of think that technology exists somewhere in the back. Like, you're walking around the streets in New York after 9/11, and I would like to think that there are cameras everywhere. I would like to think that there are precautions in place. But the biggest precaution that was taken away, when you really think about it, because less is more, and sometimes simple is the answer, is that they need more police on the streets in New York. And all the funding and the defund the police is really, in a lot of ways, probably a catalyst to where we are today. Because the more manpower you have, the more people to recognize something's wrong, right? Because that's what you see in a large crowd. Somebody to recognize that something's wrong, the better off we'd be. And I have to say, you want to go back to defund the police and think about Where are we putting our resources? And what about human beings, bodies on the street, police officers, just like this amazing man who was protecting this building, who ultimately lost his life. Those people are so vitally important to the structure of human society and to our safety in big cities.
Well, Trixie, would you go to New York to visit now in the current situation?
Oh, yeah, I would go, but I would hope I had somebody with me that was really good in self-defense, because you can't pack when you go there. And I would prefer to pack if I was going there. But I think a lot of the problem they got is, I think when they closed all the mental health centers and all the psychiatric hospitals, I think that has a really big effect on what's been going on now. There is no mental health treatment, and you look at the majority of the perpetrators and they all have issues like that, and then they've been kicked around from different facilities and different treatment centers and never really got the help, but I think that's a lot of the problem. So
but to that point, now I plan on, full disclosure, I plan on making a trip to New York later this year to check out. I've got friends there, NYPD. Vinny lives there, in Jersey. Cousin Vinny. Newsmax. I'll be doing some stuff with Newsmax there. And I to your point, Trixie, I hate going somewhere I can't carry. And when I'm in civilian status, when I'm not officially working in my law enforcement role, they make it very clear you can't carry. And it's like, no, because I've had this discussion before with the NYPD guys, like, yeah, sorry, we love you, but the law says you can't carry. So I hate that law that says, I don't know why my constitutional rights end at the border of New York State. I don't get that. It's kind of like, yeah. So I am, and again, most places I feel very comfortable here not carrying, because I know other people are, but up there I don't trust the situation at all. And to your point, mental health, something happened over the past, I'd say 10 years. I used to love to ride the subway. I loved the subway. It would take me everywhere I needed to go quickly, and it used to be safe. And I've talked to people who live up there, and they feel that subway is now no longer safe because of the people with mental health issues who kind of hang out there now. And for a city that has so many resources, to have wasted them on illegal aliens, which I would argue, don't be a sanctuary city. Why don't you take care of the people who actually live there, who are citizens who have mental health issues? So Trixie, do you think that that's something the president should hit harder? The fact that we're spending this money on illegal aliens and not taking care of citizens who have mental health issues? I mean, I think it's a valid issue.
I think so too. And I think he just signed something too about taking the homeless and drug addicts and everything off the street.
He did.
Yeah,
he did.
So I think, if they would invest more money into psychiatric care like that for people and make it easier to actually get treatment, because even now, if somebody does realize that there's something wrong and they try to get treatment, they're on a 6-month, 12-month waiting list to even be seen. And in that time, there's so much tragic things that can happen. But I think Trump's doing really good with that. That's a start. It's a good start, but I think there could be a lot more done. But I think, like what you said, flipping the resources from illegals to actual citizens, I think would be one of the best things he could do. But you turn around and a lot of this goes on in blue cities, and then you got the administration in the blue cities fighting him, tooth and nail to even do it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's part of the thing. And another place where the mentally handicapped are left to kind of their own devices is California. And LA in particular, and San Francisco. And it's sad to see people who literally become drug addicts, who live essentially from fix to fix. They become essentially criminals, and they do everything they can to essentially feed their addiction. And it's amazing that they've spent billions of dollars, and yet the homeless situation is worse than ever. And I think it's because of the very thing we're seeing. And Karen, did you see this? There's a controversy now about the Fire Fund, the nonprofit. Have you heard about this?
I did. I
So
saw, this guy Spencer Pratt. I don't follow all of this, but apparently he was like a big star in the hills, and they're like TikTok famous. Apparently he's one of the people that called this out. So Hollywood is even calling this out at this point.
yeah, because what they
Wild.
do is basically it's a money it's a money laundering scheme where one nonprofit pays another nonprofit, and so all this money they made is all going to overhead, which is basically the people who run the nonprofits, and nothing is getting to the actual people who suffered. And I was texting with my friend Cherie Curry, I mentioned her earlier, and she lives in the San Fernando Valley, right next to where all this happened. And she was driving around the other day because it's only a 6 mile drive to get to the coast where this all happened for her. Nothing's been done. The place looks like a war zone. And so to me, some of this has to come down to ethics. Why would you run a nonprofit and knowingly not do what you're supposed to do? Well, I would say because they're all liberals.
Yeah,
but
there's so many things. There's so many things wrong. Like, it's just the fish stinks from the head to the tail. And I mean, when you're talking about California, you're talking about Gavin Newsom. I mean, what else can you say? Like, I could just say that name and immediately, like, he looks like a cartoon character. Let's face it. He looks like an evil, sinister cartoon character.
He does.
Look at Nancy Pelosi. Look at this family, okay? Just seriously, like, can we not just on face value realize that this is batshit? Like, it doesn't make any sense that this man is running the state of California and that the state of California is its own worst enemy. I actually listened to I think it was I want to say it might have been Rogan. It wasn't Rogan. I'm trying to think of the other podcaster that I follow. And I listened to this interview with Gavin Newsom, and I was almost ashamed that I listened to so much of it. But I said, I want to get in his head. I want to understand this. And I was on a long drive. And I just walked away feeling exactly the same way that I went in, that this person is a degenerate. There's just no way around it. Like, I don't have anything else to say. And listening to him talk and the bull that was just spewing out of his mouth was unreal.
I can't believe he survived the controversy of sleeping with his campaign manager when he first ran for mayor, but he did. And
there's a lot to talk about just on a personal level that you could get like some juicy stuff, because obviously there's always with these degenerate people, right? But just the disservice that he's done, again, as a human being, to the state of California, and now this, and to think that he's definitely going to get away with it, because they all do. All of these deep state people get away with it, right? And again, Nancy Pelosi's his aunt. So at the end of the day, they're going to profit. People are going to suffer, and we're just going to go on down the road. This administration has so much on their plate. Unfortunately, California has again destroyed itself. When is that going to be a priority? I don't know. Because we have people shooting each other in New York. So it's like, what do you tackle first? What do you do first, Tony? Because it's a mess. The world is on fire.
Well, I think that, so Trixie, to that point, I think that in many places where people are not liberals, I guess I can say that, we all get along. As a matter of fact, we're down here in North Carolina. We have our issues. We have shootings, but they're like a fraction, as in one per year almost versus one every day. We have all the same issues, but people really do invest in trying to fix things. And this is the left and the right. So I think it's almost a woke mind virus that gets into the big cities.
Yeah.
And actually does this sort of, or in big blue states. And Trixie, have you ever been in Northern California? Up
No, all I've ever been is just across the state line from Tahoe to say I went. That was about it.
So, well, Tahoe's beautiful, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So my point being is that Northern California, a place called Weed.
Are you talking about
California?
Mendocino up that way?
Yeah.
Okay. I know what you're talking about.
And all the redwoods, they should break away. As a matter of fact, well, I was there a few years ago, right at the beginning of the first Trump administration. And I went up to Weed, California, and man, they're high up there. Just saying, nothing wrong with that. But my point is they were all kind of flower children who hated Gavin Newsom in California and the central governments. And they were all Trumpers. these were all kind of hippies who get Trump. It's like, we consider him to be the best option for our freedom, and it was cool to be up there by Mount Shasta. There's Shasta root beer. I guess that's where it comes from. Karen, is that where Shasta root beer comes from? Do they go up to the mountain?
I don't know.
I think so.
When you said Shasta, I thought immediately of orange soda. Am I crazy? Did they make different flavors of Shasta? Is it like an RC Cola kind of thing where there's different flavors, like a brand, or is it just Shasta? And do I have it all wrong? And I know the chat would answer me. But I'm desperate. I cannot get into Rumble. I'm probably going to have to set up a whole new Rumble account. Like, I'm so far down the rabbit hole right now. I'm trying to get back into Rumble, so I apologize. I know that they're blowing up. Trixie, I'm sure you're in the chat and talking about everything we're talking about. And, that's one of my favorite things about this show. And I'm a little out of sorts because I can't get in the chat. So somebody from Rumble needs to help.
I asked if Shasta is a brand, and people love Mount Shasta. Is beautiful. It is spectacular, and it's very accessible. You can actually walk way up on it. So the mountain was named after the popular soft drink. That's right. So the ancient Indians. Did you know this? The ancient Indians in California created Indian root beer, and they called it Shasta. And that's why they named the mountain after it. Right? About 1,000 years ago. Is that right? According to the chat. It must be true, right?
According to the chat. Usually they're pretty good in the chat, too. They come up with some really good
They really do. They come up with great stuff.
Anyway, back to my point. My point being, Northern California, if you know what's good for you, break away. Go join Idaho. Go off with Blaine Holt. Go talk to Blaine, General Holt. He'll help you. He'll help you secede, get away from, Gavin Newsom's hair. And and by the way,
it's bad. This whole, and again, like, the chat is my best friend. So the interview that I watched was just so unhinged, and I would not subject anybody to it, but it was a good reminder of just how insane things are in California. And the fact that Hollywood's now calling it out, and people like Spencer Pratt, who are actually affected by this, are like, wait a second, what happened to this money? What happened to my neighbors? How am I going to come back here? I mean, most of these people cannot afford to rebuild, but they have to figure out how to move on with their lives. And they're still in limbo. Can you imagine that that's how you have to live? And for a lot of people, these were their primary residences, and they had everything wrapped up in it. That was certainly true for his family. And I didn't know who they were until they were affected by the fires, because I'm not really like a reality show watching type of person. I just don't have time. I'm doing other things. But they really have shed a lot of light on what's going on. And thank you to everybody who's, uncovered this amazing situation that, again, is not shocking for most of us because we expect things like that out of California, but just how far we've fallen and how bad it's gotten.
Well, so Trixie, to that point, I just don't think that that people should be forced to endure like this, the way that the Democrats want to rebuild. And let me, to Karen's point, there were people who lived there, to include, we had Superman on a while back.
Dean,
you know what I'm talking about. Yeah,
Dean.
We had anyway, my point being is that some of those people had been living in that area of the fire since the 40s and 50s. And so these people, their wealth was based on the real estate that they own. That is to say that they're the biggest cash. Dean and his family. Dean grew up in that area on the beach there, and so his mom and dad, their house was there, and so many of us, like, the greatest resource I have is my house here in North Carolina, and so if you lose that, insurance money's never going to pick up the full cost, and California with this regulation is going to make it so you can never rebuild. And
you're
so
basically destitute when that happens.
Yeah. And so, believe it or not, there's a friend of mine, and I'm going to bring him on the show at some point. It's tough because of where he lives. Bob Hayes from Airplane the actor, lost his home in one of these fires, and he's never rebuilt because of the regulation and nonsense that hold on a second here, that the people in the government, both LA and state, are going to inflict on these people regarding regulation, fees. They're going to try to basically make it so that only the rich, speaking of, inappropriate use of government power, only the rich are going to be able to afford to rebuild. That's what they're trying to do. So,
well, it's
Trixie,
purposeful too, for the land grab, because they're pushing that public housing and everything. And so when a tragedy like this happens, they're the first ones to move in, claim eminent domain, and make it virtually impossible for you to replace anything that you have. And I think sometimes, it sounds like a conspiracy theory, but how many times have things been a conspiracy theory and we find out it's true,
Yeah. Well, I think if there's ample evidence at this point that this is all true, that this is all actually happening, that they're trying to price people out, overregulate people out, basically take this family wealth. And let's face it, you sell a plot of land. That land is going to be worth less than if you have a house on it.
Oh, absolutely.
It is what it is. And so basically, these people are just being literally screwed over by their own government. And I don't know, Karen, do you think they're going to rise up and do something about this? Because I don't know.
No, I really don't. And you're saying it, Trixie. I agree with you as well. I think we're all on the same page. And I can read the chat. At least I can. We don't feel exactly the same. Logic again sometimes doesn't apply, right? You think like it's so easy, it's so logical, but yet it's never going to change because not everybody is working with their logical brain, and most of them are liberals and leftists, and unfortunately we have a leadership in this country that failed us for so long. And thank God we're back in this moment where, we're entering a golden age of America, but we have a lot of work to do. And there's a lot of evil. That's
you know what?
There.
That's
we didn't do Jesus calling yet, guys. We didn't
do it.
Yeah.
There's a perfect point, though, of talking about the economy to bring on John Lott, who's here.
Okay.
Well, let's do Jesus calling first.
I'm sure he'd like to join us for Jesus calling. I mean, I'm Jewish and I like Jesus. Everybody likes Jesus. So the more the merrier.
I'll bring him on then.
Let's do it.
Okay, good morning, John.
Good morning, John. So I'm just going to read Jesus calling real quick for everybody. Hello to the chat. Wake up, Patriots. Today is come to me continually. I am meant to be the center of your consciousness, the anchor of your soul. How far you allow it to wander. An anchor or a short rope lets a boat drift only slightly before it gets tight and brings the boat back to center. Similarly, we drift away from God. Our spirit will give us a tug, prompting us to return to God. So as we become increasingly attuned to God, the length of the rope on our soul's anchor is shortened. So you can wander only a short distance before feeling that inner tug that's telling you to return to me. So I thought that was a really good way to start the show, and welcome in our guest. Hi, John.
Well, welcome. Good morning. So thank you, Karen. That was great. So John, good morning. Welcome to Wake Up Patriots. You were on Chris and my old show, The Hard Truth. So this is Ed Henry's show. So we're permanent kind of stand-ins, right, Karen? We're just standing in for Ed.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing that for quite a while. It's just become.
Anyway, so welcome. We've been talking about a number of topics relating to government control, often bad control. But we talked about the LA situation where the government's trying to regulate people and prevent them from ever rebuilding, to make the family wealth that was acquired through real estate holdings to basically be null and void so others can take it over. And we also talked this morning, John, about the event in New York City, where the individual came from Las Vegas. Apparently he had a concealed carry permit. I saw it in the New York Daily or New York Post. And so the guy was clearly someone who had some level of understanding. But my issue, obviously, John, always is New York is a gun-free zone, New York City, especially Manhattan. And I would argue that's one of the reasons he picked that spot to go into, because it was a gun-free zone. So what do you think, John? Do you think maybe this guy picked Manhattan to be to act out based on the fact he knew there would be a limited number of people with weapons to stop him?
Well, I don't know any statements by him yet on that. There may be. What I can say is that a lot of these mass public shooters, the vast majority of them do explain in their diaries and manifestos why they pick the targets that they do. They may be crazy in some sense, but they're not stupid.
Right.
Their goal is to get media attention, and they know the more people they kill, the more media attention they're going to get. And they know if they go to a place where their victims are prevented from being able to go and defend themselves, they're going to be able to go and kill more people and thus get more media attention. Whether that applies to this particular individual yet or not, I haven't seen any evidence with regard to it, but I wouldn't be surprised. You
Yeah.
know, you only have a very small percentage, a few thousand of the, 8, 9 million people that live in New York City who have concealed carry permits, and where they can carry is limited, very limited right now, and so the odds that you're going to run into somebody who's going to be able to go and defend themselves in New York City is extremely low.
Right.
Um, you have these laws that impose criminal penalties on people who would carry a gun. First of all, he's not even carrying concealed, he's carrying openly a rifle.
Yeah.
He's not allowed to go and do that, even if he has a concealed carry permit in New York City, and New York doesn't recognize permits from other states.
No, which
So
is
even if he
insane.
was carrying concealed, he would be committing a crime in that case too. But obviously, he was committing multiple crimes that were there, and it's you impose a criminal penalty on somebody who breaking these laws. If you or I were to do that, and we were to face a couple years in prison, that would be a major penalty. Our lives becoming felons would be completely overturned. But if you're somebody like this guy who's going to murder 4 people, even assuming he had lived, uh, and he's going to be facing 4 life sentences in New York, does anybody think that the threat of taking a couple years away from his 5th life, we said, well, I could live with the 4 life sentences, but you take 2 years or whatever from my 5th life, that's going to make it, deter the person. It's simply not a credible argument that's there. And so these
Well,
laws, however, unintentionally just assure these attackers that the law-abiding citizens will obey them because they represent real penalties for them, and they'll
right.
take advantage of that. So these,
Well, to that point, John, right down here where I live, we had an incident about 3 months ago where I don't want to say the name of the chain because they'll get upset with me, but an employee of a food store shot gang members that he was part of the gang in front of the store during business hours with customers around. And of course, they didn't care. The laws, and this guy's going to jail for a long time. I know the prosecutor. I know the local police and leadership. John, so there's a middle ground where these extreme guys, yeah, they don't care. They're going to be on their voyage of death or voyage of self-destruction. There's a place, though, that we need to be focused on, I would think, where you have kids, and this guy was very young. I think he was just 21, somehow believed that being a gangster, being all bad with a gun was a good thing. How do we get to those people who actually have a life, who have the potential of being good citizens, but somehow believe that just having a gun and shooting people, well, that's just fine? How do we deal with that sort of thing?
Well, I'm not sure who thinks it's just okay to go and shoot people, but I think in general, you have, if you want to deter crime, you have to make it riskier for criminals to commit crime. And I
Right.
think anybody understands that if higher arrest rates, higher conviction rates, longer prison sentences, those things, if you're a criminal and you're certain about getting caught, you're going to be a lot less likely to go and commit the crime there than if you think that there's a good chance that you're going to be able to get away with it. Um, you look at Chicago, you may have an arrest rate there that's in the teens. You know, fewer than 1 out of every 5 people who commit a murder are going to end up getting arrested, let alone convicted and serving time in jail. Uh, is it going to be surprising that you're going to have a lot more gang shootings that are going on there if people don't have to worry about getting punished for the crime? I don't think it's rocket science that you're talking about here, but anybody who's had kids knows that you got to go and provide them certain boundaries, that they have to know that there are consequences if they go and behave improperly. And I think young people of any age kind of understand if there are consequences to their behavior, they're less likely to go and do bad things.
Well, I think that's where the culture comes into it. And you make a great point about that. Teaching adults, the system that creates people who don't regard the law adequately end up being in jail for long terms. And that's part of the problem, I think, is that we have a generation of certain parents who don't want to put any sort of control or create conditions for kids to understand consequences, because they're this outcome-based generation. It's like everything you do is fine, awards for everything. How do we stop, or how do we get through to those parents who then need to really help shape their young minds? Because when you were growing up, John, when I was growing up, I've heard stories of my old boss, Dr. London, talked about taking a 22 rifle on the subway, going in New York to go do something, because the culture at that point, people were responsible. They had personal responsibility. Nobody on that subway back in the 50s worried about a kid with a 22 rifle. That's how much things have changed. How do we get back, or how do we insinuate get parents to actually do the hard work of parenting and create kids who understand consequences and can basically step away from violence as a potential solution to their problems?
Well, you mentioned New York City and people being able to go and carry guns. Up until 1969, all the public high schools, except for one in New York City, had riflery teams.
Right.
You'd have literally, 8, 9, 10,000 kids on any given day carrying rifles with them on subways and walking on city streets and other places, taking the gun to school, storing the gun in the homeroom, at the back of the homeroom for the students, and then going and taking it in the afternoon to go to firing range and then taking them home. There weren't problems that were occurring.
Especially opening day of deer season too. Everybody brought their guns though.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there wasn't probably too much deer season in New York City, but
only in Central Park.
Yeah, and maybe I'm sure in other parts of the country. I've lived in Montana for a while, and obviously that would be true there. But so you have a situation where people didn't think anything about it. Now you go and talk to anybody, they're going to think you're from Mars if you would explain to them that as late as 1969 that was the situation. They would just not be able to comprehend something like that. But look, you look at the drop in things like arrest rates by 2022. The arrest rate for large cities over 1 million in population for violent crimes was down to 20%. That's a fraction of what it used to be back in the 60s. If you want to make it risky, it's not too surprising that criminals go and respond to the fact that, it's much less risky for them to go and commit these types of crimes.
Exactly.
You can go and whatever your parents are, if you make it so that they see that you end up in prison, that you get arrested, that you get punished for these types of things, I think even denser people will go and respond to that and change their behavior.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the key, is the behavior. And I just don't know how we reverse the course of allowing kids to believe that they're in charge. And I have to say, I have this sick fascination with body cam stuff that's out there now. It's like, man, oh man, there are people out there who are nuts. And to your point, John, you would think that people understand when you engage when law enforcement engages you, you need to be respectful. You need to listen to what they're telling you to do, and you have to comply. Those are, I think, common sense things to do. But man, there are people out there who are not even drunk. I mean, the drunk ones are really funny. But some of these people believe they're entitled to the point of where, yeah, I don't need to listen to you. I'm not breaking the law. And that to me becomes problematic, because it ends up with bad encounters. People go to jail. And I think it's avoidable if people were actually taught, to your point, to respect the law, to understand that there's going to be consequences. How do we get respect for the law and people, some adults, to understand there's going to be consequences for bad behavior? Do we have to step up the arrest rate? Is that how we do it, do you think?
That's where I would start with it. I mean, you can go and tell them to be respectful, but if they actually see that there are consequences, I think that's probably a more direct way of making them actually respect it.
Yeah. So, well, I think that's something that we have to deal with. Karen or Trixie, do you have any questions for John?
Yeah, I have so many questions for John, because really, I think, Tony, one of the best things that I heard Tony say, John, was common sense. And one of the questions I would have for you is, yeah, we can enact the laws, we can do the different things, but at the end of the day, will common sense prevail? Because it almost seems like human nature is moving in a direction where it doesn't work anymore. The rules don't apply.
I just think incentives matter. If people don't think that there's consequences for their actions, then they're going to behave differently than if they do think that there's going to be consequences for their actions. So, if you want to make it reduce crime, you got to go and make it riskier for criminals to go and commit crime. Surely things like the values that parents instill are is important and valuable. The values that schools instill. Unfortunately, I'm not sure how much values schools instill in people compared to what it would have been,
Right.
70 years ago or whatever. And I think all those things matter.
I think a lot of it is desensitization too, from a lot of the violence that, back when you figure when we were kids growing up, I want to say 60s, 70s, you didn't see as much as that on TV and everything. And now it's glorified. It's all over the place. You have like Grand Theft Auto, the games, you see a lot of violence on TV, the movies, all that kind of stuff. And I think kids don't value life as much anymore just because they've grown up that way. And I think that has it. I'm not saying that's the whole cause of it, but I think it really contributes to it.
Great point.
Yeah,
it could. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, John, Grand Theft Auto it's a bad game. I mean, I don't know if you ever played it. My son first turned me on to
says
it.
It all, Tony. The word theft gives it away.
So I mean, Trixie, I get your point, and I think that does have an effect. With that said, my son, who was a Boy Scout, an Eagle Scout, who first turned me on to it, I think probably about 15 years ago, he turned out to be an Eagle Scout, and he's a fireman and medic in Arlington. So, he became law abiding and still is. He's a great kid, but there's something else that, in the absence of parents doing the hard work of parenting, I think you can allow them. So this is my point. If my son Alexander, well, Anthony, he goes by Anthony. He wanted to be called Anthony. Anyway, long story. He had a counterbalance to the game. Like if you grew up thinking that Grand Theft Auto was reality, I think you could probably turn out pretty bad. Just saying.
Yeah.
But if you understood, yeah, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, some kids like live that, especially in LA and the big cities,
South side of
Baltimore,
Chicago,
DC.
big time.
Yeah, Chicago. So, but because my son actually had good parents who worked with him at the Boy Scouts, he had. I'd like to believe that I tried to make sure he went in the right direction, understood wrong from right, made some good choices. You have to have parents in the loop to kind of counter a lot of the cultural nonsense they see, because there's a lot of violence in movies. There's a lot of stupid movies. I mean, I've seen some of the recent superhero movies. Have you seen? Did you hear about this new series Ironheart, where the central character is a criminal? Essentially, she's a criminal. Like, she goes the opposite of Tony Stark. She like sells kids scores to tests to make her. It's like, it's really like, really, you're teaching that as a value that you want to like be selling test answers as your way of making money, and then working with criminal elements. I mean, I'm not joking. That is the plot line of Ironheart, which is supposed to be the follow-on to Iron Man. So the media itself is not producing content that is good. Now, when I was a kid, one of the biggest movies I watched was Star Wars. And I saw that thing like 6-7 times. And it's pretty much a story of good and evil.
Yeah.
And, so, I'm not saying that influenced me. I watched also Hawaii Five-0, which I love Hawaii Five-0, just saying. So there was some cultural things which I kind of, but I don't think the kids have the same, options, nor do they have the same guidance. So John, again, it comes back to parents not paying attention to what kids are watching, what kids are doing. Kids get on their phones. They have access to everything. We didn't have that. We didn't have, if I wanted to learn something, I had to go to a library and pick up a book, and I had to read it, because, in the 70s, we didn't have social media.
Oh, yeah.
So,
or we had encyclopedias. Remember those?
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess that's my question to you, John. Do you think that the fact that kids can have access to everything all the time via their phones, is that something that has affected their ability to understand right from wrong badly?
Well, there are a lot of points that you're raising. I mean, look, we have a lot more single parent families now than we had back in the 60s and 70s. And it's hard enough to raise children with two parents, let alone one. If the parent is having to work, and they're raising kids on their own, they just don't have the time and ability to go and devote towards, working with their kids, whether it be schoolwork or talking to them about the different things that they come across and are exposed to. They simply can't influence the kid in those ways. There's a huge amount of academic research that indicates that children raised in single parent families are much more likely to be involved in crime. They're going to do more poorly in school. Girls are more likely to get pregnant in school. So, I mean, you have a whole range of those types of things. And even for two-parent families, it's changed a lot in terms of whether the mother is going to be at home with the kids or going to be out working. So she probably has less time than she would have otherwise to go and spend and monitor the kids. So those things have changed a lot. And so it's not too surprising that parents are going to be less monitoring their kids and less instilling the views and values that they had as kids.
Yeah. Well, it seems to be some of the younger generation. There's like a new generation of conservatives. I know that my son is, he doesn't know he's a conservative. He is. Yeah. And a lot of kids are now waking up to the fact that maybe they're being badly instructed by their parents. At least the kids I've seen, they kind of rebel from their parents.
Tony, you're
because
singing sweet music to my ears. This is my
good.
hope and my prayer every day. I look at kids like my son in this generation, and he's 19, and I see so much good. I see so much good. And I think they're reverting back. And, the whole time you were talking about, John, about women working, I'm going to say as a woman that I think the whole women being empowered thing was completely overrated. And I think we'd have a lot to benefit as a society. There's this whole, revolution now, Tony, with these younger kids. And I'm going to date myself by, again, mentioning TikTok and things that I have no business mentioning because I really don't know what I'm talking about for the most part. But they call them trad wives. And there's this whole revision back to like the 1950s housewife and girls aspiring to be just that, aspiring to be a great mom, to be a good homemaker, to be somebody that adds value to their husband's life, and to be a beautiful human being for their family, and to bring God into the family. And, in Judaism, we talk about women have the ability to bring in light. And that is our main job, is to bring in light, to bring light to our husbands, to bring light to our family. And that's what we're supposed to be focused on. We're supposed to be focused on our relationship with God first and foremost, and bringing light into the lives of others. And I think it's a really powerful message. And I hope you're right, because every day I say a prayer for this next generation, whatever we're calling them. What are they? Are they Gen Z now? Or are they something new? Is it this Gen Alpha? I think that's the new one. That they are going to make a real difference, because they're going to go back to traditional values. And John, you hit the nail on the head. As somebody who's been a single mom and somebody who's raised multiple children, I have 4 kids and then a bunch of kids that aren't really mine that I've raised too. And I think we can all relate to that. I look at that and I think it's miraculous that I even got through it without anybody being seriously injured or scathed. And I'm a pretty good mom. I think I'm doing okay. But, we all are not as great as we would like to be, and we're improving every day. But single parent households are really, really hard. And I think you really made a great point.
Yeah. So I think that's something that has been driven by the government for a long time. I'm sorry. Go ahead, John. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, well, anyway, I appreciate you guys having me on. I have to leave right now, but I appreciate you talking to me, and thank you. People can find more on.
Well, John, thanks for being on. We appreciate you being here.
Thanks, John.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you, John. Thank you. So John gave us a lot to think about regarding
really seriously. He got me at the end. I was like, wow, you made so many great points.
I liked what you said about raising your kids, though, and nobody got seriously injured. I know you were being serious, but I'm sitting here thinking, when you're a single mom and you got that, your kids are out, sometimes you don't know what they're doing.
I actually I had a child who had a serious injury. So even when I say that, I'm like, well, and then there was that one time, and things happen, you have 4 kids, your odds are that things are not going to be fabulous all of the time. Right. And all of us as parents, Tony, we can relate to that. Right.
Well, I think back about the stuff I did, my parents didn't know. It's like, holy cow.
Yeah.
And so, so I all my kids, I have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl, and they all inherited my kind of like adventurous spirit. I'll put it that way. And so they just do stuff. And man, I hear about some of the stuff after the fact. It's like, oh my God,
but really? That's how they learn. So that's
true.
The double-edged
I agree.
sword. That's how they learn. So do you let them learn? What do you do?
Don't you miss the free range parenting though? When your kids were able to go outside and actually stay outside all day, you could throw them a lunch out there.
I did as a kid.
My kids were free range. I think let's see, my youngest is 40. So you figure that was probably right around the end of when you were able to do that. And where I lived, my kids were on the Manistee National Forest. They would be gone all day. They'd pack a lunch, get on their bikes, and be gone. You know, I
Yeah,
never
my
worried
kids
about them.
didn't really have that, unfortunately. I mean, my oldest is going to be 30. Is she 33? I can't even wrap my head around the ages anymore. I can't process it.
Nor can I.
But
Nor can I.
she was at the end of that. You know, I lived in a gated community, so my kids went out and they had friends in the neighborhood when they were young. But then as they started to get into middle school and get older, it started to be more restrictive. And, you know, people lived in different places and they were in a school with kids in different neighborhoods. And it changed dramatically. And that was one of the reasons why I had picked the neighborhood that we lived in, because I wanted them to play outside and have that childhood. And I think they got the best that they could for the early 2000s and what was available to them. But things changed dramatically when you think about the introduction of technology and just what changed in like the blink of an eye. That was one of the things. And, you know, it's a really, I could go down a rabbit hole on this too. We could do a whole show on this parenting.
Oh, we could.
Parenting thing.
Yeah. Look, as a kid, my dad was in the Air Force, my stepdad, and we were in the Philippines during the Vietnam War. So there at Clark Air Force Base, we used to trade with the Filipino kids for, you know, candy and cookies and stuff for Japanese weapons and hand grenades and American hand grenades. So it's like, yeah, I thought nothing of getting an actual hand grenade. Oh yeah, well here's some Oreos. I'll take that hand grenade, thanks. And I'm not joking. Now they called explosive ordnance like, yeah, 8-year-olds shouldn't have hand grenades. They were not digging that.
It was a different time. I mean, my dad grew up. My dad went to the high school of math and science in New York, and then went on to Cornell and MIT. And he liked to build pipe bombs. And when he was a kid in the late 40s and 50s, they would build pipe bombs and blow up dumbwaiters and elevators in New York City. I mean, and you think about it, and like that would be a criminal activity now. But these were kids just making mischief, and they would go back and they would fix the dumbwaiter.
With the dry ice and the pop bottles and just
Yeah. No, they taught us to do that in high school in Lisbon. They taught us how to take the tips of matches and cut them off and put it into a small container and blow things up. And this was chemistry class.
Blow things up.
This was chemistry class. Yeah.
We made liquor in chemistry class when I was in school.
Me too.
Ooh,
so we made sake. Our 11th grade project was making sake. Rice wine. It was great. Oh,
really?
Yeah. And we had to do and the precursor. And before we did the rice wine, they made us make pure grain. It was great. Sugar and yeast. And you let it sit and yeast does its yeast stuff. And then you distill it. And man, oh man, I got quite the headache after taking a shot of that stuff.
I went back after graduation and retrieved mine.
Wow, you guys, I'm telling you, I missed out. I mean, the thing that I had that was like going to be the thing that was really going to make me feel like a grown up is when I was going to go to Bergen Community College. And Bergen Community College in Paramus still had you could still smoke in the hallway. Oh, it wasn't even just a smoking lodge. You could.
Whoop.
Uh-oh.
Oh, we lost Karen.
Maybe her dime ran out.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe Bergen College didn't want to have people talk about smoking in the hallway. Maybe. Yeah,
that's it.
They got her.
The smoking ban.
Yeah, smoking. Well, we got to go anyway. We're overtime. So, Trixie, thanks for stepping in for Chris.
Oh, anytime. It was fun.
It was fun, and we appreciate you being here. We appreciate the Patriots being here. I guess we're back tomorrow, Chris and I, right? I think Chris is back tomorrow.
Yeah, Chris.
Oh, there she is.
I'm back. I don't know what happened. I lost you somewhere around smoking and liquor.
Exactly. Well, I think Bergen College got upset and shut the feed down
because they pulled the plug. They're a liberal institution.
So anyway, well, we got to go. So Karen, thanks for being here. Trixie, thanks for running the show for us today. And we'll be back tomorrow. Chris and I, his goatee will be a brighter shade of gray, right? I think he shined it up overnight.
A little longer.
It's a little longer. It grew just a little bit overnight. So he'll be back, to help us go through the news of the day. So anyway, until then, we'll see you Trixie, you're on this week, right? Thursday and Friday.
Yep, Thursday and Friday. I'll be here Thursday and Friday, and I'll be in the chat tomorrow. So
I can't. I'm hoping I can get back in the chat someday. Maybe I'll be back in the chat, hopefully. Guys.
Yeah. So, by the way, program note: I will not be here Monday. I've got to go to a funeral at Arlington National Cemetery on Monday. What is Monday? Monday's coming up. I should know this since I'm going. Monday the 4th. I'll be in DC for a funeral. So not mine, thank God. So
yes, and I will not be here that Tuesday because I will be flying because I'm getting married on Saturday and I will be out of the loop next week.
Congratulations. Do you know who the guy is yet?
I do. He's great.
That's my joke. That's a joke. So are you guys like
I love him. That's why we're getting married.
He's gonna fly on Tuesday. No. So are you guys gonna like when you fly Tuesday? Are you guys like doing like pull-ups and push-ups with your arms to make sure you can fly? Is that something?
Yeah. Well, I might have to. I've been working on my wedding arms for months, so I got to keep it going now.
That's great. Well, congratulations. Really,
Thank
the Patriots.
You.
I all love the fact that you're going to find wedding bliss.
Yes.
You guys got a big wedding cake and everything?
We have actually. I didn't do like the traditional wedding cake, but I have a ton of people flying into Oklahoma, which is going to be amazing. And a lot of people have not been to Oklahoma before. Imagine that. So they're going to get to see where I spend half of my time and the man that I love. And I'm really looking forward to celebrating with everybody. Like I am going to reunite with people that I haven't seen in years. So it's going to be really beautiful.
That is so cool. Well, congratulations,
really
Karen.
cool.
By the way, I spent time in Tulsa, so I'm a little bit familiar with Tulsa. Oklahoma,
Nice.
So
now we're gonna have to start calling you Mrs.
Oklahoma.
Mrs. Karen.
Start calling her Mrs. Yeah.
Mrs.
Are you changing your name?
I am going to change my name. Yeah, I would like to get rid of the Turk name. I mean, I made it what it was. It might still be my stage name. I might still just acquire it because nobody else really has used it properly. I was really the first person to, really use that name and make it something. So I don't know. I'm sort of attached to it because it's who I am. And, it's how everybody knows me. It's tough, but I love my new name. And I will be using my new name. And obviously, I'm really looking forward to being Mrs. Shaw. So that is going to happen. I am going to do that.
So it's not Frankenfurter. Okay.
No, it's Shaw. It's good. It's easy. It's simple. And it's actually bringing me back to my maiden name initials, which is great too. So I just only wish I would have held on to all my monogram stuff, Trixie.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I had no idea.
Yeah, you could have had a lot. You would have been way ahead of the game, huh?
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, we got to go.
The game. Thanks.
Well, we got to go because I got to go do a run. So anyway, Karen, thanks for being here. We'll see you.
We'll see you. Patriots.
Yeah, Trixie, we'll see Patriots. We'll see you tomorrow morning. All right. Have a good day.
Adios.